Who is that going out the back? Ready? That's this one. Yeah, like slower. Sarah, what's that works. Thank you much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you are not seated yet, I ask for you to get there and please be quiet, or should I say silent? Thank you. We are overjoyed to have a person here today who wants to speak to you about a very small career, if you will, in terms of people's interest in it, but a huge career in terms of impact. So we have Sarah McIntyre, who is a medical laboratory scientist. She is with UVA. I know several people on their staff are Blue Ridge graduates. So they reached out to us to see if they could speak to students with Blue Ridge, and AP Bio seemed to be a wonderful fit for the content. So if you'll please give her your full attention, your best behavior. Thank you much.
Hi. So, I am here to talk to you today about my profession, medical laboratory science. It is, like you said, not a very well-known profession, and I just wanted to let you guys know a little bit about it as an option for your future. So, what is medical laboratory science? Has anyone here been to the doctor before? Awesome. When you go to the doctor, they're not going to look at you and say, okay, I know what you have. I know how you're sick. This is how we're going to treat you. First, they're going to ask you a few questions. They're going to run a few tests. They're going to draw your blood. They're going to have you pee in a cup, swab your mouth. And then a few hours later, the next day or something like that, you'll get values in your report, and you'll get an interpretation from your doctor saying what you have from those values. So a medical laboratory scientist is the person running those tests. So they're receiving the blood, the bone marrow, the urine in the cup, the swab, and they're running those tests that they then give to the doctor, those values that the doctor will interpret so they can help diagnose and treat you. So I think it's very important. The doctor cannot make any decision based off of your care without those values. So I have a few videos for you today that can help explain medical laboratory science a little bit more with visual interpretation. This is the first video to help you kind of understand the profession a little bit more. This one just has music. That's a wonderful statistic of over 70% of the medical decisions made by your doctors are based off of the values that are provided by medical laboratory scientists for the jobs that we do every day. There are different departments. These are the examples of some of the departments that you could be working at. So the laboratory is very diverse in the different sections that you could be studying. toxicology, that is the study of red blood cells. Urinalysis, study of urine. That is looking for your DNA and seeing if there are any genetic disorders. It's not just working on the bench either. There are different steps. You can be a manager, you can direct. It's more than just being on the bench doing laboratory testing. So clinical and medical, they are synonymous. They used to be called clinical laboratory scientists, and then they decided to change their name to medical laboratory scientists in order to make it less confusing. I think before that, they were med techs, so they just keep changing the name, so you might have to Google a few words in order to figure out everything. I have another video for you. Let's see if I can get out of this. Escape. I think this is the same video. So this one is from UVA Health, so it is more specific to UVA. You guys know how to get rid of the top bar? Because I made it bigger and then now it's not letting me make it smaller. Oh, yeah.
Hi, my name is Matthew Burrows, and I am a medical laboratory scientist at the University of Virginia Blood Bank. My responsibility is to care for patients by analyzing their blood samples and specifically matching them up appropriately for transfusion. The blood bank is a great place to work, especially in a hospital setting, because each day presents a unique opportunity and new challenges to overcome.
Hi, I'm Lakeisha Baker, and I'm a laboratory scientist in the toxicology lab at University of Virginia. We mainly do drug testing. We also test certain drugs to make sure that they are within a good clinical range, so that they're not too high where they'd be toxic to the body, or too low to where they're not efficient enough.
My path would probably be considered unconventional by most. I knew that I wanted to do something relating to medicine, and it took me a little while to get here. I was working locally in the emergency department as a medical scribe, and I became particularly interested in the way that the laboratory supported patients that were in the ED. So that's how I really became exposed to the profession.
I've been interested in science probably since the third grade. The science fairs were always really cool to me. I was interested in medical school, so there's a lot of science courses I had to take, and I had the thought that, oh, this would be a cool job to just work in the lab. At the time, I didn't even know that it was an entire career field.
The graduate program that I attended was at Virginia Commonwealth University. I enrolled in a categorical track, which allowed me to obtain my master's degree in medical laboratory sciences, but to receive a concentration in immunohematology, where my passion lied. I'm very fortunate to be here at UVA. I was lucky enough to receive a work grant scholarship for the profession. I love what I'm doing right now. I think it's the best of both worlds in terms of both the patient care element as well as the scientific investigation.
I chose toxicology because it's a more specialized lab discipline. I love my job. I love science. I love to learn. I like to teach. And the great thing about our job is because there's so many different disciplines, if for some reason you get bored, you can just go to a different lab and learn a new skill set. My goal is to just learn as much as I can, get a better foundation, and feel comfortable being in the field and doing things by myself.
I think one of the greatest strengths of working in laboratory medicine is you really do have many different opportunities. So you can kind of tailor your career to your own interests and skill set. My passion predominantly lies in education and training. And so I love having the opportunity on a daily basis to not only teach other people, but learn new things myself.
I would tell anyone that's in school and interested in science, it's a great field, it's a needed field, and one of the greatest things is that when you graduate, you will have a job. No matter what state you go to, you'll have a job. And whether you want to go get your PhD in science or medical school, it's just a good foundation.
I do think that I made the right decision choosing this career, and I think that there are many possibilities for my future. There are just so many different avenues for laboratory professionals that the sky is really the limit.
So,
Hi, my name is Matthew Burrows, and I am a medical.
okay, that's good. I understand. So I wanted to let you guys know a little bit about how I found the profession and why I chose it. So I'm not going to play right now. So I only found out about medical laboratory science in my senior year in college. So before that, I went to college, Bridgewater College, and I started off as an undecided major. So I really did not know what I wanted to do. I didn't really know what I was interested in. I liked a lot of things, and I think I really liked psychology, really, to start off with. And so I did get a minor in psychology. However, when I took my biology course in college, I became really interested in that and genetics, and everything was just so cool. And so I knew I wanted to have a biology degree. However, I didn't know how I could really use that biology degree. I was looking into PhD programs or becoming a nurse or something along those lines, and I realized just how much schooling getting your PhD was 5 to 6 years. There was no guarantee that I would get a job after that, and very competitive with keeping your job and always fighting for grants and money and everything like that. And so that just didn't really seem like me. But I really wanted to use my science degree. So I was asking around. My biology teacher mentioned this track that some of his students had already went down. And I also had a friend whose mom was a medical laboratory scientist. So I was able to talk with her a little bit about it and tour the lab that she worked in. And it was really cool. I only needed one extra year outside of my degree, and then I would get a job and I'd be able to work. And it's such a high demand right now because of COVID and everything. More laboratory tests have been developed, and they need people to run those tests. And people are retiring, I guess, so they need people to replace them. And so it felt like job security, and that was kind of what I was looking for. And I was going to be using my science degree, and it felt like because of the lab, it's similar to the lab in college where you're pipetting manually things and you're growing things on a plate, or you're trying to find different organisms and figure out why somebody is sick and how you can help them. So that's kind of why I chose it, and it became a good path for me. And I want to tell you guys today about it just because there are paths that are faster than the ones that I took. So she said, sorry. Yeah. So, is it better? No problem. So yes, there are different avenues that I did not take. I personally did one extra year outside of my 4-year college degree, and there are ways where you can go to college and you can do everything within those 4 years. So VCU and ODU, they have 2+2 programs where you can go to college there, do your prerequisites, and apply for the program while you're there, and go into the program, do your rotations at the local hospitals there, and then you can get an MLS degree as well as take the ASCP certification exam and get your certification in medical laboratory science. So that's there. So I, of course, did an extra year. There's also other programs that there's smaller colleges that work with a local hospital. So an example is Bridgewater College. If you go to Bridgewater College, you can do 3 years of undergrad, and then you can, they work with Centera, the RMH one in Harrisonburg, where they do their last year of rotation there, and then they can graduate with their MLS degree as well as their certification too. So there are different options for you. If for some reason you might not be able to afford your first few years of college, then there are programs that are earn while you learn. So you can become a phlebotomist first, and then while you're working as a phlebotomist, you can take an MLA course, which is just a few classes at PVCC, and you can become a medical laboratory assistant. And from there, while you're working as that, then you can become a medical laboratory technician or technologist, depending on who you ask. And after a few more classes at PVCC, you can then transfer over to a CU, ODU, where it's that 2 extra years. So then you can do the 2 years and obtain a scholarship where they pay for those remaining 2 years for you. And so to become an MLS. And so that's kind of a way up there that you can do where you can work at the same time as you pay for your education, and there's also scholarship opportunities. When I did my extra schooling, I did not have to pay for my extra year because I did receive a scholarship with UVA, and they paid for my year of schooling in I worked for them for 2 years because of that, and continued to work there since then. But there are just different ways that you can work, and if you cannot afford, then there are also opportunities to be able to work and learn more so that you can make more money in the future. So I feel like this job is very secure. It has a good paycheck for the knowledge that you have, and there's also different ways as a medical laboratory scientist to move up. So it's not just the bench work. You can be a director or a manager. You can also be in the education, and you can teach other people to become medical lab scientists. So if you're interested in education and science, you can do that route. So beyond that, though, the medical laboratory technologist, I just wanted to mention the difference between that and a medical laboratory scientist is that the technologist does not have the ability to be a director or a manager. And therefore, they cannot kind of go up into those higher paying jobs. So that is what encourages people to then get their certification. So I have one last video for you that is very specific to UVA, and they kind of talk about why they work at UVA and talk about the various different laboratories that UVA has, because every hospital, they're all different sizes. And so Augusta Health that I rotated partially at, they are a smaller hospital, and so they don't have as many laboratories in there. They have the main ones, hematology, focusing on the blood, urinalysis, looking at the urine, and microbiology, chemistry, those things, but they don't have the specialized laboratories. The specialized laboratories include toxicology that do the drug testing. They have flow cytometry, which is the department that I work in, looking at blood cancers. And there's also genomics, cytogenetics, those things that are looking very specifically at your DNA and seeing if you have a genetic disorder that can be helped. So, very interesting that you can work at any of those places. You do not need any extra schooling to go to any of those labs, and it will be entirely different testing, and so your job will be different where you work. So I like that.
For people to come to the University of Virginia Health System and be part of the medical lab team. We are a team of 300 that are really working for the patient's benefit.
We're so much more than just pushing buttons and putting out figures and numbers and results. We really do have a stake in like how patients are taken care of.
We are behind the scenes, but every tube of blood is a patient. It is a patient that you are trying to help.
Sometimes at like a reference lab, the samples get lost as just numbers, whereas here at the university it feels much more personable.
That's really why I
cytometry
came
department.
to this job rather than getting a job in research. That connection to patient care is really important to me.
When you look at laboratory medicine, the core disciplines are hematology, chemistry, micro, and blood bank. Every hospital across the country will have those laboratories, but the specialty laboratories really are the cutting edge.
Having so many different specialty labs here at the university has made a huge impact on the care that we provide. We're able to do a lot of specialized testing in-house, which gives us faster turnaround times, and we're able to act on those results quicker. Our clinicians have that readily available.
As a physician, I am unbelievably grateful for how well the labs work here. If those tests aren't here, then we can't do what we do. If those tests aren't run well, then we can't do what we do. If those tests aren't run quickly, then there's problems in terms of trying to get people treatment quickly.
It's really very much of a team environment, and it's really different than any place else that I've ever worked as a med tech. All of our medical laboratory scientists, medical laboratory technologists, they feel like they have good communication typically with laboratory lead techs, with supervisors, with our pathologists. We're part of the clinical diagnostic picture. Every day we work with the fellows, the residents, and the attendings for pathology.
We're very close to the physicians that we work with. Most of them, I think, we're on like first name basis.
I've been very fortunate to have a lot of different mentors. I feel I've had mentorship from our clinical directors. I've had mentorship from supervisors, managers here at the institution, as well as other peers.
I think that UVA is really unique in the sense that there's such a clear ladder to move up in the lab department. There are so many educational opportunities because we're an educational facility.
We have a lot of state-of-the-art equipment, and just within the past year, we've started working with the research and academic side to bring in whole genome sequencing and making that available to our micro lab. And that's new technology that you're not going to see at every lab.
This is a relatively large blood bank. I was coming from a facility where our regular inventory of red blood cells was 15 O positives and 15 A positives, and now we have several fridges and our inventory is in the 200s plus, and we're really well staffed, well prepared.
I like how I'm always learning something new. It seems like every day there's something that's kind of different or unique in terms of a chromosome abnormality that I might find. And that's really cool. It feels like I'm never done learning.
One of the favorite parts of my job actually is the ability to live in Charlottesville. It's a very active town, which I appreciate.
Charlottesville, basically, really selling the place. So, yes? A phlebotomist? You would like to know what it is, or? Yeah, so a phlebotomist is someone that draws blood. So they are the person that you go to when you're at the doctor and you need your blood drawn. They're the one that comes in, either a nurse or a phlebotomist. If you're in a larger hospital, there are people dedicated to drawing your blood before they send it off to the laboratory to give to a medical lab scientist. So that is. So let me think about what I want to tell you next. So for medical lab science, it is something that you don't need a lot of schooling for, but it gives you a very secure environment, work environment. I wanted to let you know that if you guys did want to go back to school, you wanted to be a doctor, you wanted to get your PhD or something like that, you might not be like the best candidate right out of high school or right out of your college or something like that. And if you become a medical laboratory scientist and you're working for years and you decided that you wanted to go back to school, it's only enhancing your resume. So I know several of my colleagues that have decided, you know what, I did want to get that PhD. I know exactly what I want to do now. And so they're they were able to get chosen and in those very highly competitive programs because they were a medical laboratory scientist, and they were also saving money while they did that because they were working for their laboratory experience. And another option for somebody who did ultimately want to do that, but they either didn't have the money for it because they weren't working before this, or they didn't have the resume that stood out to the highly competitive programs. For UVA, so I wanted to let you know I'm in the flow cytometry department, so that is very highly specialized, very specific, as according to the video, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about it just because I didn't know anything about it before I started working there. I'm in both the flow cytometry and immunology department. The immunology department is a study of antibodies. So I don't know if you guys ever seen commercials and they're talking about the different shots that you can take to help you, and they're talking about how you can build up your antibodies and it will help fight the disease. And so in immunology, we're looking at the antibodies that are the ones that give you allergies. So if you have an allergen that gets into your system and your body doesn't recognize it, then it will fight it and will attack it. And so antibodies are released in your body to attack what they think is this foreign thing in your body, this disease that it detects. And so that's when you start getting stuffy nose and up, clogged up and everything like that. And so our testing is detecting how much of the antibody or antigen that is in your body. So we're looking to see how much of your body reacted to the amount of antigen in the person's body. So all you need is one vial of blood to do that, spun down, and just take the top part, which is your plasma, and put it on an analyzer, and then it will give you those testing. What I like about flow cytometry is a little bit more manual. So the core lab is super automated so that we have really very expensive equipment that it runs all day long. All day long, it is super smart and it helps you do your job. So you're the one checking to make sure that the patient is correct with the sample, and you're putting it on the instrument, making sure it doesn't break. Troubleshooting, how do I fix this instrument, and things like that. That's in the core lab. You're kind of an IT person in a way, and you're kind of you have to really know about computers and know about how to fix things and problem solve. And you do work with the actual IT people. You get them on the phone and you're helping try to problem solve those things. So that's one way to view the job. But there's another way is way more manual, way more like a bio class lab, where you're the one sitting there streaking a plate and letting it grow for several days to see if that person has a bacterial infection. That's in microbiology. Or in flow cytometry, I get a tube of blood and I lyse away the red cells and only focus on the white blood cells because I'm looking to see if the patient has a blood cancer, leukemia, or lymphoma, or I'm trying to see if their patient still has their cancer after being treated. So even though we're not seeing the patients face to face, we're still helping them by I still get to see the names come back a few times. I can see when they've been diagnosed. I can see when they've been treated and when they become hopefully cured. And so it's very personal. And even though we might not be able to see them, we're still helping them. So I feel like that's really cool. If you're a person that may not be able, you're too maybe empathetic, and so seeing those patients ill is really hard for you, and it makes it so you can't work because you're just like, I really feel for that person, and I really want to help them, but I'm breaking down with them. Then you can still work in the laboratory because you're still helping those patients without getting that triggering of the patients being ill right in your face. If maybe your social skills are, you know, you have a hard time speaking with people, then the lab might be for you because we do talk a lot. We have a lot of communication. We do a lot of email communication. We do talk to doctors. We page them. We ask them questions and everything like that. We do work very closely with our doctors. But with patients, we do not usually speak to patients. The only lab that might have patient interaction is the cytotherapy or cellular therapies. They have just changed their name recently. They're the ones who are in charge of the stem cell transplant. So the individuals, when they have their cancer and they need to be treated, all of their cells get wiped out in their body and get replaced either by the healthy cells that they had left or someone else's healthy cells in order to help cure their cancer. And so they're the ones, they walk up to the patient and they hand deliver those cells to make sure that it is the patient, the right patient, and they don't have a reaction, a poor reaction to anything that we had done in the lab. And so that is very personal, but very rewarding. I think other things I wanted to tell you guys about this profession, it's very diverse. It's just like you can never get bored because it's always changing. I've been in the flow lab for 3 years, and I have learned a new procedure like once a year, like because we keep updating and learning more. Science is ever changing, and so is labs. And I feel like that is pretty cool to not have to do the same thing every single day. If you want, I can show you the flow plots and everything that I'm seeing. You want to see those things? Yeah, or if you guys have questions about medical lab science. We do not work with radiologists, but we do work with pathologists. My lab, flow cytometry, doesn't personally do an ELISA, but I had done it briefly in the immunology side before they updated their protocol, because the ELISA, it takes a lot of time and goes through a lot of things. The analyzer, the Phadia instrument for allergy testing, they do something inside the instrument that is considered to be sort of an ELISA. And so that's one way that we do it. But we had done it for tau transferrin, which is if a patient comes in, they got really hit on the head, and they're wondering if their spinal fluid has leaked out of their body into other places that shouldn't be there, then they have done that type of testing before. And that takes several hours of sitting there and playing with the gel. Well, this hospital for UVA Health, I do not work with forensic pathologists, but I'm sure that there are other places that do work with forensic pathologists. Well, the pathologists that we work with, they are medical doctors, so they would be doing their residency and 4, 6, 8. They have a lot more years of experience and more, even more years ahead of them. But they do specialize in pathology. They are medical doctors, so they did their medical schooling. which is different than medical lab scientist, which is just the 1 year certification program. Yes, I wanted to also mention that even though I work in a hospital setting, you can get your certification and work at any lab at all. So if you're interested in the environment, you can be doing the water testing or any other type of testing, laboratory testing. It doesn't have to be with human patients. You could be running the laboratory testing on animals. You could be in the pharmaceutical and want to run to see if the drugs are going to be working. So Merck, I don't know if you've heard of Merck in Elkton. That is very sciencey, and medical laboratory scientists do work there and see if the drugs are working. Um, yes? Oh, no problem. So yes, there are different ways. If you like sports teams, if you want to do the drug testing on sports teams, then that is a medical lab scientist that can travel around with them and do their testing. Just literally any laboratory testing that you can think of. Food testing, you could do cosmetic testing, any of those things. You will be eligible if you have this background. So, highly useful. You ever heard of Quest Diagnostics? I don't know. Those are outside laboratories that are independent of hospitals, but they do work with hospitals and do laboratory testing. They also work with those type of places. And they are anywhere. I really like this job because I can work in so many places and I can get a job very easily because it is in such high demand and not many people know about it, yet it's very needed.
On microphone.